Hello, this is Shawn Nicole with the GreatHER Purpose Podcast, and today I have a special guest who is Erika De La Cruz. Am I saying it right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. De La Cruz, De La Cruz, De La Cruz. It's
awesome.
It all sounds pretty good.
Well, I'm from California originally, so I was like, I think I can say her name right.
Yeah. There you go. Yes, definitely.
Well, Erika, you wear many hats. You have, of course, a testimony, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But you're also a best-selling author, the founder of Passion to Paycheck, and I want to touch on some of those. And like I told you off the record, the GreatHER Purpose Podcast is pretty much just a platform where people talk about how they overcame obstacles to find their purpose. And so with that being said, I want to kind of start with your testimony of how you got to where you're at as far as your homeless experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I'm really familiar with the homeless community, and I'd almost say the moving parts around how someone chooses to be there. And it's in large part connected to my mother. So I'll make clear that while I was technically homeless for many months, I was living out of a car, a Honda. I was sleeping on friends' couches till I found a place. And my experience was $0 in the bank account. And I was floating to try and make it back to college. Whereas when this was after losing everything in the first economy crash 10 years ago, whereas my family lost everything. That's who I was with. My mom retreated to voluntary homelessness as a lifestyle. So it started with camping, and then she was and is, so she continues to be in a homeless community for probably the last 10 years. And so, yeah, so basically we were pretty, I mean, I grew up like middle class. I think maybe me being Mexican, our family owning a Mexican restaurant and being around all the kids who like loved to use the word beaner, and it was just like Mexican is less than, provided some contrast for me growing up. But for the most part, my childhood and everything was so happy. Had a loving family. We did own the restaurant, so I didn't want for much. Then when I was around 18, the economy crash hit and my parents' business of 30 years closed, seemingly like overnight, gone. And I was in my first year at college, but I came home for the summer and discovered everything that had transpired. So business was number one, but then the home that my mom had designed and built, was foreclosed on. It was basically like I came back to visit for the summer, like most kids were doing. I went to school across the state of California, so it was like 6 hours away, probably from home. And I arrived to chains on the doors and the windows, and literally nobody had told me. And looking back, I think everyone was in denial. I was away a lot, but I noticed when I would visit, like grass was way longer than it ever had been. The pool was turning green. I would have questions, but I think my mom was trying to do the best she could because she was so hopeful. She had like 4 jobs in between losing the restaurant. She waitressed. She did everything possible. And it just didn't work out financially for anyone. And my dad, obviously the shock of losing the business he built, he's just so I look up to him so much. It took him out for that good year that they would have tried to rebuild. And it resulted in that summer of basically packing all of our stuff in 11 hours. Like nothing had been moved from the entire 5-bedroom beautiful house that my mom designed and built. So we had hours. We were getting help from the neighborhood. We put most of it into storage units, and then through the course of the next year, the storage units went unpaid. So ironically, our stuff was basically became commodities at flea markets and swap meets. And for the next few years, I would get Facebook messages from various people or throughout California of like, I see your photo in a frame that's for sale. What the hell? Or this looks like your dining room table growing up, and your whole set. And I'm like, yep, that was it. There's many more twists and turns, but that's an interesting gist of it, is that I basically that summer was left. Luckily, I had this 1993 like Honda Accord that barely moved, but it worked. So I put some stuff in there, and I like started saying to friends, like, can I stay over a couple nights? And then, yeah, eventually I did make it back to college, but it wasn't easy. I drove there, like, fingers crossed, going to every adult I knew to figure out, like, how do I apply for financial aid? What the hell? And then my mom.
Being a native of California, the people that don't know, California is not a place you want to be homeless in, because
no, it's not. Yeah. 100%.
It's very big, because I'm from Northern California, but
what area?
Stockton, California, born and
Oh,
raised.
yeah. Okay. 209. I have a 209 area code.
Awesome. And see, I went to school in Fresno for a couple years.
Oh, yeah.
And I can really relate, because when you're down and out like that in a place like California, it can be very hard to find support and resources. So with that being said, how do you feel that experience molded you to where you are now and help you find your purpose?
It was everything. An experience like that. It's kind of like why people skydive, because where else in their daily life would they get a rush like that, or push their bodies and their fears to the limits? And whether I wanted it or not, I feel like something that I discovered within myself, I don't know any other way that it would have been pulled out, which was like that fight or flight that you hear about, that like, you have nothing, what are you made of, came to be. And I found like, whoa, I was a fighter. Holy, like, and I wouldn't have known that. But I mean, I went back to my high school job in my hometown, and I said, and they didn't want to hire me back because the guy, oh, it gets so crazy, girl. But the guy that I was dating from high school, who I was going to break things off with that summer, ended up being like one of the only people I could turn to. So that wasn't an option, but he was now managing that old high school job. So I went to them and said, I don't care if you need to schedule us on different shifts, because they're like, we don't feel comfortable doing this now that he's your superior. And I'm like, I don't care if I have to let him go, whatever. Like, I need to work here. I need to save up my money.
Right.
And I just started doing the things that usually people put off or like don't have the courage to do, which is call people, like call adults. And all I could think of was like, adults know everything, right? Like, what other family, friends, or aunts and uncles can I call right now? And like, it was like, looking back, I'm like, damn, you're amazing. Obviously, then I felt so scared, so afraid, like in a million pieces, but it shaped everything. And I think the big thing it did was two-part. Number one, finances. I have a funny relationship to them, and they're always provided. It's crazy, but I feel like I now know you could literally make anything from nothing. Like, having nothing means nothing. Once you lose everything, you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
It's almost like, well, what's worst case scenario? And then it's weird because this faith emerged. And so that's one of the things. And then the other part is that I really committed to doing what I wanted to do in this lifetime. Like, I was like, wow, I watched my parents really build for 30 years for it to overnight seemingly just be gone. And it was like a reset. So I'm like, all right, well, if I'm going to face plant, I will do that, doing the thing I really want to do, because it's crazy. I even got a corporate job after college, and due to the circumstances surrounding COVID, most of the team I worked with is unemployed at the moment, or their departments have been shut down. And it's crazy because I did leave that as well to work for myself. After 2 years of experience, something that I may not have done, having lost everything. I would have maybe stayed there forever, cushy, salaried, health
Right.
benefit, corner office is what I'm talking. And I didn't, because I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get this experience. And,
Right.
the older men in my department were like, oh, you're so cute, honey. Like, you're probably, they thought she's not leaving. And like, ding, 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 my time was up after 2 years when I felt like, oh, I was in this meeting and I hated it. I would rather be doing red carpets or something else. I was ready to put in my 2 weeks. So it gave me this like, like, I just think that I enjoy life to a degree that I may not have, or I may have definitely taken it for granted 100%.
And it's funny that you say that too, because people that have never experienced any type of struggle like that,
Oh
they
my
don't.
God.
And I used to work in a homeless shelter, and I learned so much in that time I was there because there's different levels of homelessness.
There are people don't, thank you for saying that.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that. So yeah.
And what I learned is that, because I didn't even know I had went through a spout of homelessness until someone told me, like, you're sleeping on someone's couch, you're homeless.
Yes. No,
so,
exactly.
but I think, based on your testimony, what you're sharing is, I think a lot of people can relate to that, because what we think is something that's holding us back usually is something that's molding us for something greater. And so if you hadn't been through that experience or witnessed what your parents went through, then there's no telling where you would be now.
Yeah.
And now you're elevated, you're doing all these wonderful things, like being the founder of Passion to Paycheck. I love the name.
Thank you.
I mean, that just says a lot about your faith and your determination. How did you decide to find Passion to Paycheck and to become a best-selling author and actress?
It's interesting because I feel like I didn't set off to do one thing, to found a brand, to write a book, but I listened to the little inklings within me that felt good, and I followed wherever felt good. So when it was time to leave my corporate job, which was in radio, it was going to feel better to go toward, at that moment, sharing my story. I had shared my story somewhere once. It became a YouTube video. My now business partner on the book had seen that. And I trusted and followed that this was going to unfold for me. And what ended up happening was that when the book came out, it's co-published with Kyle Wilson. So he was Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner. And for those who don't know Jim Rohn, he has the quote, like, you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. He trained Tony Robbins. And it was interesting because I got into personal development and I realized I've been practicing this since we lost everything and not before. So that's the other thing I got was I was like, really, when I look back at the way I thought and saw the world, I was like complaining, a little bit negative, and complaints still my go-to whenever I'm having a bad day. But I am in a totally different world than I was before because I don't know, there wasn't a defining moment before that summer and those couple of years. And I began listening to content that motivated me online, that inspired me to think good thoughts, produce good things. I literally was like, nothing else to lose. Let me try it. And I tried it and I was like, wow, you're right. Opportunities are springing up like full-time jobs. So I had no problem leaving that full-time job for what I knew was a greater good because I was practicing tuning in to what made me feel the best, knowing that my feelings would attract more to make me feel that way. And so little by little, after meeting my business partner, I did a little bit of coaching for the girls who had read the book and a lot of the audience I was building. But I found that one-on-one coaching really drained me in the end. It was a lot of my time and not the greatest impact. So then we decided to have an annual event. We called it Passion to Paycheck. TV personalities from everywhere, really sharing vulnerably was my goal. Share vulnerably in mainstream media, prioritize personal development. And it would have been its 4th consecutive year, sold out all 3 years. The 4th year this year didn't happen because of COVID. But we just had a vision board party under the Passion to Paycheck brand 2 weeks ago. And we had about 1,000 women attend virtually. So that was really fantastic. And I think it's an ever evolving result of committing to myself and putting myself first. And a lot of people want to talk about service. And if service is access to realizing your best self, serve. And if there's other ways to access, like saying no to everyone, I feel like step 1 is serving yourself. I remember people pleasing till my back was hurting, like bending over backward for the humans around me.
Right.
But not for me. And the result was such a break in my wellness. And now that I'm putting myself first and people are allowed to fall off, like I'm the type of human who I define relationships, good ones, and friendships as like what's good for you is always going to be what's good for me.
Right.
And so I want to attract to that same thing, but you'll see what falls off isn't for you anyway, because if you're going toward your highest good, then guess what? What's falling off can only mean it's not for your highest good.
Right.
It's the law of the universe. It doesn't work in reverse. So yeah.
Well, with that being said, you also use your platform, like you said, to, even though you put yourself first, you also give opportunities to other people to share that also. And I was looking at when you partner with Bumble Business to create a space in keynotes and attendees could bring more vulnerable, like you said, conversations. You have people like Roxy Diaz, Shawn Robinson, people like that. And at this point, where do you see that going? I'm post-COVID, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I see Passion to Paycheck growing into an even larger brand, because at the events, I have these beautiful humans sharing, and they're people that you watch on television and they're sharing really vulnerably. But in between those panels and Q&As, I'm training. So I'm training in personal development work the same way I would coachees. So that transformational training, I find that a lot of women want that. So we developed a product called Passion to Paycheck. It's available on passiontopaycheck.com. And a lot of women are loving that. So I think the future is really going to be a lot more ways to get involved, a lot more events that are transformational with the same signature events with the celebrity elements. Vision board party we host under Passion to Paycheck. And yeah, all of our humans in our community are passionistas. So I think there'll be a lot more lifestyle content from my personal brand and some fun deals that are in the works right now that I'm probably can't talk about at the moment, but definitely more lifestyle content underneath. So instead of attending an event once a year, a passionista can be like, what's in my pocket? Do I want the coaching? What virtual events on the docket? Just this one-stop shop of companionship. The whole Passion to Paycheck is really based in helping someone feel less alone, almost the way magazines did for me. Like if I opened a Marie Claire when I was in a really tough time, I could get everything from stories that were vulnerable that meant so much to aspiration and inspiration, but then I could find like adorable dresses and places to eat, and it really fueled me and just helped me see a brighter future. And I think more women should have places to go like that. And so, yeah, that's what I'm creating.
Awesome. I think that's awesome. We need more of that. I didn't want to leave the conversation without talking about your acting, of course.
Oh yeah, totally.
You are on FYI's network called Dream Life, which aired last August. Yeah. So can you tell us more about that?
Totally. So it is actually nonfiction. So it is a reality series based around an Australian. She's fabulous. She comes to Los Angeles to start a business, and she selected me as almost a right hand, assisting her to build these celebrity interviews in personal development work. It's funny because you'll see in the series, we ended up loving each other, like being like she is me probably in 10 years. And so we just had that vibe. So yeah, in the show, they discover my book. I won't give away sort of the finale, but in the end, I'm kind of going from coordinating personal transformational segments and celebrity guests to actually giving one myself. So it was basically taking what I'm already working on or already worked on previously in my own brand and business and applying it to her brand and business for the show. So it happened to be filmed the entire making of the process. So we had guests like Caitlyn Jenner, Deepak Chopra. It was such a fabulous experience. I watch it back and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful experience.
And
So
you
yeah,
have such a beautiful spirit and energy about yourself. So I think that fits perfectly for your personality. That's awesome.
thank you. Oh God, yeah, watching it, I had like all these had all these DMs, man. I'm like, wow, I'm a little goofy watching it back, but it's fabulous and it's fun. So
Awesome.
I
So
love it.
what's the next steps for you, and how can people learn more about what you're doing?
Totally. So next steps are definitely housed on social media. The content that we're producing right now is really aligned with everything we've been talking about. Thoughts create things, personal development and transformation. And Passion to Paycheck will be rolling out some more events, the products there, and it's all available on Instagram. Really is the best place to kind of hone in. The websites are up, but it's at Erika De La Cruz and at Passion to Paycheck. So yes, at me, DM, whatever it is, let's collab. I'm excited.
Well, congratulations on everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, just your transparency, because I know that's not always easy to share with people, but just keep doing what you're doing. And like I said, your energy is so beautiful and remarkable. And I just love seeing what you're doing.
Girl,
So
thank you so much. Likewise. Thank you for putting on a platform like this for everyone out there. I'm just like, this is what's needed. So
thank you so much. And I will definitely be in touch on some future projects that you have going on.
amazing. Perfect. I'm excited. I look forward to it.
Thank you. You have a good
Thank
day.
you. You too, boo.
Bye.
Bye.